and welcome to tonight's episode of Two Yellows Make a Red. This week we are focusing on refereeing decisions from the weekend. Two major talking points this week that we'd like to gnaw your ear off about. I should really write down some catchphrases because that's not one of them. But there's only two that I really want to talk about. One more dubious than the other, but I believe both will definitely spark some form of debate. Particularly from Ryan, given that he still lives in 2006 laws of the game. So we'll start off swiftly. Should we go contentious first? Let's go easier first, right? So we're going to go with the West Brom game. So Brighton versus West Brom finished in a stalemate, and no, never.
No, it didn't. You love the 1-0 stalemate.
I'm not gonna lie. See, week by week, I start to wonder if you mean it.
No. I thought I finished 1-1, but I never. Should have finished 1-1. Yeah, it definitely shouldn't have. But it finished 1-0 to West Brom, and the decision that occurred in this game was a disallowed goal for Lewis Dunk. So if you've not seen it, for anyone that's watching that's not seen it, brief description from myself. Free kick is awarded about 10 yards from the edge of the box, and Lewis Dunk says to the referee, "Ref, can I take it quickly?" Now, when I'm refereeing, I always say to players that I like them to tell me if they're going to take it quick. Purely just gives me the heads up that I need to bolt or get into position a lot quicker than I would need to. Obviously, with this case, Lee Mason doesn't need to do any adjustments really because he's got assistants. But generally speaking, they'll ask if they should take the free kick quickly. Lee Mason has reportedly said yes, and then Lewis Dunk's taking the free kick and put it top peg pretty much. Lee Mason blows the whistle to begin the play, and before the goal hits the back of the net, he blows the whistle a second time. Now, on first glance, I didn't understand why he'd blown this whistle again, because you're looking for a foul or something in the build-up. There's nothing. The reason he stopped, or the reason he blew his whistle again, was because Sam Johnson wasn't ready. He was at his post, trying to direct the wall. So for me, off the bat, he was correct to disallow the goal because the keeper wasn't ready. The keeper obviously needs to be in a position where he's able to make some form of a save. Obviously, not all goalkeepers are going to make a save, but given that he's at the opposite side of the goal, you need to give him the opportunity to do that. And as I say, he was organising his goal. So I think he was right to disallow it. The messiness comes with VAR getting involved, and I don't mean to spitmouth Phil, professionals in the referee world, but it did look like Lee had a bit of a nightmare when it came to organising it. Particularly because he gave the goal, and I don't understand why he would give the goal when he'd already blown the whistle for a second time, because he'd seen that Sam Johnson wasn't ready. So it went to VAR. VAR told him to have a look at it again, and they were looking for if the ball had entered the net on the second whistle. Off the basis, I think, that had it entered the net, then he'd won his whistle, that it should have been disallowed. But regardless, it came to the decision it was disallowed, and play was then restarted. So I guess the first question I'll ask yourself, Ryan, is goal or no goal?
As you say, a very messy incident for the officials, for the VAR, for everything involved. I'd say, given what I've seen of the incident, for me it's a goal. Dunk has obviously said to the ref, "Can I take a quick one?" He said yes, blown the whistle, and then it's just a good bit of sort of clever play from Lewis Dunk that I personally think should be rewarded for that sort of that quick bit of thinking. So I think West Brom have definitely got away with one there, and Brighton can count themselves very unlucky. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Wow. Yep. That's fine. Scott, goal or no goal?
I hummed and hawed about it all weekend. Really, something in the end, I think it is right that it wasn't a goal, but I can see why. Obviously, Brighton are moaning and shouting about it because the fact that the player has been told, "Yeah, you can take it," but then you're going to stick by taking it quickly. But at the same time, I did find it weird that the referee even. I'm sure I heard somebody talk about that the referee's just lost concentration over that like 20 seconds or whatever it is in that moment. The fact that, as I say, you'll know as a referee anyway, but your protocols will be to check, especially when it's a direct free kick that's from a scoring distance. Usually, not many take that quickly, and they'll decide what they're going to do with it, and then a goalie will set up his wall. Then the whistle will be blown because everybody's ready. I'm not sure that anybody other than Lewis Dunk was ready at that point. Genuinely, I'm not even sure the Brighton players were in position. Like, genuinely, it was only Lewis Dunk, and the referee was right next to him. Went, "Yep, go on," and just hit it. So I would say no, it shouldn't have stood. The fact that nobody was ready for it, and the referee just went, "Aye, go for it."
Yeah, I mean, if you watch...
So picking up on that then, Andrew, sorry.
No, carry on.
Like, what is the actual rule there? Because, I mean, like I say, from my point of view, you want to see, like, clever attacking play rewarded. That's just been a good bit of quick thinking from Dunk. I mean, is there a rule that says when it's a direct free kick, the wall has to be set and the keeper has to be set? Is that an actual rule, or is that just kind of?
From my knowledge, no, it's not a rule. But when you've got the defending team, you give them the option: do you want a wall? And the reason you ask that is so you can then walk out your wall. If I'm a referee and I'm walking out that wall, that's giving the signal to the attacking team they can't take it quick because I am walking this wall out. Now, I've not seen the full clip because it's not on Sky Sports, but Lee Mason is already next to Lewis Dunk, so he's obviously had to count that wall out because he's not just obviously going to magic. So he's had to walk the wall out, made his way back to Lewis Dunk. That's the point that Lewis has then said, "Can I take it quickly?" For me, I don't understand why you'd ask that, given that A, the keeper's not ready, and B, the wall's still getting organised in terms of, they're doing their shuffling and stuff. But in terms of, is it a rule? No. Is it common sportsmanship, I guess you could say? Probably. As Scott said, as touched on, it's very rare, especially from a direct free kick in such a promising position, for a quick free kick to get taken there. Cannot think of any other circumstances where you see that happening. If it's an indirect free kick, they might have done, but I mean, by all means, if I'm wrong, I'll check IFAB after the video, and if I'm wrong, there is a definite law, then I'll put it on screen. But to my knowledge, no, there isn't a law set in stone that a wall needs to be set up.
Right, so I've no problem with that. If we accept all that's true and correct, then that's fine. I've got no problem with that. I suppose the only thing that I will come back with again is, and this might be an unfair comparison, is say that free kick's on the halfway line. Now, obviously, in that scenario, the defending team's not going to have a wall.
No.
So if the person taking the free kick sees their striker running behind, and assuming he's onside, and he plays that and a goal is scored, then that's like a clever bit of thinking. And the defensive team aren't set, but then if you're saying that's not a rule, like it doesn't matter. So I'm going to apply that same logic here. Like it's basically the same thing, just further up the field.
I think a good comparison, if we want to, with that argument there, Ryan, is, do you remember Trent Alexander-Arnold's corner against Barcelona?
Against Barca, yeah. Mm-hmm.
He runs up and Barca aren't ready at that point, that set piece. That goal's allowed. So I guess you're right, because the advantage, certainly from a free kick point of view, the advantage is given to the attacking team. The defending team have committed the foul, so you're always going to apply an advantage to the attacking team. So it's probably not is a comparison in the sense that it's quick thinking. But in terms of comparing it to the free kick, it probably can't really be applied. But I'm more inclined to agree, no go with this one, purely because the goalkeeper's not ready. If the wall's not ready, it doesn't matter, because you can still defend without a wall. But if the goalkeeper is, as you see in Sam Johnson's clip, he's away on the other side and he's directing his wall to move to the left, he's not ready. And if your goalkeeper isn't ready, you have to give advantage to the goalkeeper in that situation, because he's the only one in that box that can use his hands, for example. He's one of the special players. It's one of the exceptions that we need to kind of look after there. So I'll come back to you now, Ali, just given that wee segment there. Goal or no goal?
I'm inclined to agree with Ryan on this one. I think that the referee, I think it's a problem of Lee Mason's own making. Lewis Dunk has asked him if he can take a free kick. The referee said yes, and he's blown the whistle. So you play to the whistle. It doesn't matter if Sam Johnson isn't ready. The whistle's gone. Everybody else, you're told in every other aspect of a football game to play to the whistle. And I think that Dunk is perfectly entitled to take the penalty, and the only thing that saves Lee Mason is the fact he blows his whistle again a split second before the ball crosses the line, and VAR saves him. If he'd blown his whistle a split second after the ball had crossed the line, then VAR would have had no reason to overturn that, and the goal would have had to have stood. So I think that it's a problem of Lee Mason's making. I think Dunk was entitled to hit it. I think he played to the whistle, and I think it should have been a goal. And he's saved by the fact that he just happened to blow his whistle, probably realising he'd made a mistake. Yeah. But it's poor refereeing, plain and simple.
I agree. I think you actually hit the nail on the head there, in the sense that it's the referee's fault. If he blows that whistle once, he's telling everyone in that field, right, plays on. And if Sam Johnson is still at a position, which he is, and he doesn't make the save, which he doesn't, that's on him for not getting himself ready in time. So then the fact that obviously he's blown the second whistle, that's what's caused the whole scrummage. And then I'm bringing into the argument about Sam Johnson not being ready. Because that's what Lee Mason's seen. He's seen the goalkeeper's not ready, and he's decided to stop the free kick from being taken. The goal being awarded. But yeah, I agree. Poor refereeing. And then the mess after is just, for me, I don't know why you're getting VAR involved there. I think it just looks a bit messy. But aye, 2 for 2 there. 2 for 2. But I mean, there was comments made after as well from Graham Potter and whatnot, and I'm never a fan of it. I'm never a fan of players, because I've been there. Players slighting referees, making comments about it. Do we all agree that he made a mistake? Yes, but to come out and target Lee Mason for that is just opens up a can of worms for me. Accept that he's made a mistake and move on, sort of thing. But aye,
there's no. That's the problem. Is there's no accountability for the referees or VAR.
No.
So, and it's not the first mistake that Lee Mason has made in the last while. If you were operating a 3-strike policy, that would have been his 3rd strike after the 2 Mike Dean incidents.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know what forum referees should be held accountable, but to be honest, I don't actually blame Potter being a bit annoyed, because who else does he direct his anger at?
Yeah.
So you can question I don't know what he said, but I think that it's indicative of the fact that there's no transparency at the moment, and there's no accountability.
I didn't see Graham Potter's interview, but I did see Lewis Dunk's, and he did one with Sky Sports, which he basically says, "Why am I standing here telling you go and grab Lee Mason and he can explain himself?" And I do feel that in cases like that one, where it's just so it's the ref's fault that for this situation, he should be the one explaining it. And I don't agree that referees after every single game need to go through every decision in an interview. But if there's one that's been highlighted so much, like what happened at the weekend, I don't see the problem with a 2-minute interview with Lee Mason to say, look, for him to even just say and apologise to everyone that's a Brighton fan, or to say, look, sorry, I got it wrong, I just wasn't thinking, and I didn't notice that everybody wasn't set or whatever, and I shouldn't have let him take it so quickly. What's so hard about doing that?
Lewis Dunk was the one that said that, I think it was Lewis Dunk that also said in one of his post-match interviews that the refs should have been mic'd, and then everybody would have understood the process, which I've said people are going to get bored of me saying that, but until it happens, I'm going to keep saying it. That would have cleared a lot of things up, because we've got no idea why Lee Mason blew the whistle when he did and all that kind of thing, and then what the conversations with VAR were, but that would have been yet another example of why you should mic him so he can explain himself on the pitch, which is, again, what they do in rugby.
Yeah, I mean...
and cricket.
I was speaking to Sean about this, a friend of ours, yesterday actually, online, saying about how we should mic the referees up, but we don't need to listen to them throughout the game. It only needs to be for the major incidents involving VAR or disallowing a goal. Because really, you don't care what he's saying to somebody, if he's giving somebody a booking or just a quick free kick, whatever. It only matters if he's disallowing a goal or speaking to the people that are actually behind the screens, saying, right, what are we looking to disallow here? Why are we looking to disallow it? Right, okay, I'll overturn my decision. It's no rocket science.
I think the thing that bugs me with this is it's not a hard fix, because the mics are already mic'd. Sorry, the referees are already mic'd up, and there is communication between all four officials on the field and Stockley Park. So it's literally a flip of a switch to get that then broadcast to the audience. And I take on board Alistair and yourself, Flem's points that it needs to happen, and I would fully support that as well. And I think I'll predict this now, it's going to happen soon. I genuinely believe if it's not going to be this year, it's going to be the year after, because it has to. That BT Sport video surfaced again on Twitter this week, where I had that Jaffa guy moved from Australian A-League to the English Championship, and he's refereeing there just now. In his last game of Australian A-League football, every decision was mic'd, and you could hear every decision getting discussed and stuff like that. So I don't understand why they've not done it. And they must know themselves. It'll clear up so much heat, and it will clear up a lot of questions by people. If I'm a fan, which I am, of course, and I'm watching a game, I am more than likely going to be more content with the decision if it's explained to me rather than not. And I apply that to the way when I'm refereeing. If I'm refereeing, I give a decision, 9 times out of 10 I'll explain it to a player, because I know myself it's going to diffuse the situation. If I turn around and just say to him it's a free kick and I just stick by that and don't give a reason, he's going to get fueled up, and the next challenge he puts in is a bit overzealous because he's angry. It's a booking by me, but who caused that situation technically? You'd argue it was me. So yeah, there needs to be a lot more clarity and a lot more transparency, like you said, Alistair, from the refs. But it is an easy fix. It's one switch. Because there was a comment made in the Man United game, which we'll get to. Luke Shaw had made the comment that the referee had said to him something along the lines of, "Oh, I can't give that penalty because it would just cause debate." Now that's been recorded. Every conversation that's been made is recorded, so we know that the vocals from every referee and the official is going somewhere because it's been recorded. So why can't that be broadcast? But yeah, anything you want to follow up on this, that, Ryan? Just the West Brom one before we move on.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sitting over here feeling like a pointless contestant, because Scott stole my first point about Lewis Dunk interview, and Alistair stole my second point about the whole referee being mic'd up thing that I've talked about before.
Yeah.
The last thing I just want to add is, I mean, again, it just creates this kind of us and them sort of dichotomy. because you just feel like the referees they're being protected. And again, you can't justify it or condone it or anything. But again, it's this not knowing what the refs are saying to each other that's further fueling all this. Like obviously we're talking about the Mike Dean death threats. Easy for me to say. A few weeks ago, it's just like a kind of constant cycle that keeps fueling itself.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. The sooner they get like the mic'd up like technology in place, the better for me.
So our next game is the Manchester United Chelsea Bourfest. It was a 0-0. Previous to the reverse fixture, that's now 180 minutes that I won't get back of my life. But yeah, a game that looked like it should have been goals, given Man United can't defend and neither can Chelsea. But under Tuchel, seems a lot more of a defensive game. Well,
he literally kept like 5 or 6 clean sheets in his short time in charge.
Yeah, no.
Tuchel's all about defending.
That's what I'm saying. I just said, Matt. I just said.
No, you didn't.
Under Tuchel, they have definitely tightened up the defence. But
we've definitely got another Man City or win the league, Man United or win the league in our hands here.
Yeah, so a bit of a war fest, but the main decision in that game that I'm pretty sure everyone will have seen watching the cast tonight is the penalty decision, or lack of penalty decision, with a handball incident with Hudson-Odoi. Going to give you my tuppence on it because I initially told the guys surrounding me here that I didn't think it was a penalty. But if I am putting my teacher's cap on and looking at IFAB's definition of handball, which I'll read out to you, in that incident, Hudson-Odoi, for whatever reason, has decided his hand belongs next to his ear. So he's running and his hand is extended above shoulder height. Definition of the law goes as follows. It is an offence if a player touches the ball with her hand/arm when the hand/arm is above/beyond the shoulder level. So first off, that definition from IFAB, it's a penalty. His hand is above his shoulder. Again, don't know why. Maybe fancied a tickle, but aye, first of all, it's up there. The other ones, another thing that another criteria IFAB have defined is if the player makes himself bigger by doing so. I'd probably argue he isn't. I don't see you would make yourself bigger by putting your hand up there, but it's definitely above the hand shoulder, as defined by IFAB. Now, that's going with the laws of the game in the sense that it should have been a penalty. I'll flip it why I think it wasn't given. IFAB also has criteria for if an opposition player plays the ball against the opponent's hand and his hand is, as I've said before, above or beyond the shoulder height, it isn't a handball. So I think my take on it is Stuart has not given the penalty because it looks like Greenwood has played the ball off the top of his arm and then touched his hand. So in that instance, no handball as it was given. It was given as no handball. So that's the two sides of it for me. But for me, with the replays that I've seen, and the replays that Stuart must have seen, but for whatever reason he's decided it's no penalty. But from what I've seen, the ball is above the hand, the ball is above the shoulder. Really shouldn't be there. I've no idea why I thought it was a good idea to put it there. And it's touched his hand. Penalty kick. Alistair, I would love to hear an opinion from you. Penalty or no penalty?
I think that it's a penalty in the letter of the law, and it's kind of annoying that they haven't given the penalty when they've given penalties for similar handball contact already this season. So I can understand why, especially Solskjaer and his players were aggrieved at the decision. They should have given it as a penalty, but I also personally I don't think that something like that should be a penalty. I was kind of on the same lines as yourself, where it sort of bobbles off both his and Greenwood's hands. So like common sense tells me that they've kind of both handballed it, and it's sort of just a 50-50.
Yeah.
But like they probably should have given a penalty. Like if it was against the Rovers, and it's in the letter of the law, then I'd probably be doing what Ryan's doing and sitting saying it's definitely a penalty. In that sense, in that like you want the decision. If it's in the letter of the law, you should be getting the decision.
Yeah.
But it kind of bobbles off both their hands. So I think the referee should have given it. But I personally don't think that should constitute a penalty, because I think it's just a bit of a 50-50, like they're playing volleyball.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, I think you're spot on, mate. Fleming?
Yeah. At first, obviously, as you say, when you watch it in real time, you don't really see it well enough to go, oh, that's a penalty. So when it was slowed down, yeah, I would give it as a penalty. As you say, you've said about what the rule is about if your arm's above shoulder height, then anything that touches your arm, it's kind of in a place that it shouldn't be. So yeah, it's a penalty, and I would agree with that. So I was a bit surprised considering he did go and check it and then he still didn't give it. I was a little bit surprised at that. But yeah, I've not really got much more to add other than I thought it was a penalty.
Who does it come off first? Whose arm does it come off, or hand does it hit first?
I think Hudson-Odoi's actually, it's hit like his knuckles and then it's gone down onto Mason Greenwood's arm.
Yeah, I suppose if it had hit Greenwood's hand or arm and then hit Hudson-Odoi's, then I definitely wouldn't have given a penalty.
Yeah.
But I suppose if it's nicked Hudson-Odoi's first, then if that was the logic to give it, then I'd be fine with that. I know I was saying I think it's kind of a bit of 50-50, but if they said, well, it's hit the defenders first, then yeah. So I can see why it should be a penalty.
If you watch the replay, definitely. Well, I mean, I say definitely from the replay angles that they've given on Sky Sports, it does hit Hudson-Odoi's hand first, and then hits Greenwood. The reason I think they've given the penalty, or Stuart's given the penalty, is he's looked at the replays, and he's still deemed it to come off Greenwood first, and that's the referee's opinion. What I love about this, though, is it's a very rare occasion where the referee has disagreed with VAR. So I'll big up the referee for sticking with his own field decision, because he could have easily been swayed by that. And it's good to
I don't mind that. Like, if the referee's had a look at it and, okay, like, he's probably got it wrong, but if that's his reasoning, then that's fair enough. And I'm just going to keep talking because I can see Ryan shuffling and getting more wound up the longer it goes without him coming in. So I don't actually have a point to make on top of this sentence. I'm just going to continue talking and see at which point he just butts in.
You can see the sweat dripping, eh? Right, Ryan, obviously you're aching to go for it, mate.
So anyway, the final score was... no, I'm kidding, Ryan, and you go.
No. So the question I want to pose to you, obviously, Ryan, is should Man City be null and void for the season, given that Man United didn't get that penalty?
Well, it's too soon to, talking about title talk, but it's clear that there's an agenda against Man United from the referees. First the West Brom one, and now this. No. So when I first saw the incident in real time, I thought that it hit Greenwood's arm and Greenwood's arm only, because you saw it was only the Chelsea players who were all appealing for handball. I didn't see any Man United players appealing. Mm-hmm. But then obviously with the benefit of replay, it definitely strikes Hudson-Odoi's arm first, and then maybe kind of bubbles over to Greenwood, but that's less clear now. And the one thing I would disagree with you said, Andrew, is his arm's not in an unnatural position. I'd say it is. It's up here, out its side. That's not natural.
No, I said it wasn't natural.
Oh, okay, that's fine, and I agree with you.
I don't understand why his hand's here in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The only thing I would say to count, if you're playing devil's advocate in it, is that Hudson-Odoi would say that the way for him to, because it was bouncing quite high, the way for him to get up is using his arms as leverage to jump up to go either to head the ball or whatever he wants to do. That's the only thing I could think that he might come up with to counter why it shouldn't have been a penalty.
No, I can agree with that, Scott. You absolutely need your arms to jump no matter what the refs and the rules try to tell you say otherwise. But like the ball isn't that far off the ground in that situation, and Hudson-Odoi doesn't jump, so I can't really accept that as an argument. I agree with what Alistair was saying, and it's kind of similar to what I was reading. It was like Alan Shearer and Danny Murphy were saying. The fact that that is a penalty is ridiculous, but given the current handball rule and the other ones we've seen given this season, for that not to be given, it smacks a bit, I'm not going to lie. I mean, I think as players, as fans, as managers, all we want is consistency in decision-making. And given it seems like the handball rule's changing on a weekly basis, like, that's just never going to be achieved, and that's not good, again, for further feeding into this stuff about, like, this us and them mentality with referees and getting abused online and stuff. Because, I mean, I'm sure the refs themselves have hard time keeping up with the rules and the constant changes. So, yeah, that was, for me, a definite penalty. It's stupid that it is a penalty, but, yeah, given current rules, definite penalty.
Two spirals I want to go from there, Ryan, that you've mentioned. The first one, you're talking about the referees themselves and how it must be difficult for them to keep up and stuff. That same bit of audio that you listened to with Danny Murphy is they agree. They were talking about the fact that it's not the referees are getting annoyed at, it's the system and it's the laws, and how the application of the laws is changing all the time. So as a professional that's trying to keep up with those laws, it can be difficult. So they were saying that, yeah, they're very much on the side of the referees. It's the system that annoys them, it's VAR that annoys them. And the second spiral is just on the handball itself. And I think one thing that really annoyed me with that incident of Hudson-Odoi is we cast our minds back, I think, a week or two ago when Ryan Bertrand got a handball against him when Southampton, and that was the incident where he had his hand at his side, but he was turning round, and as he was turning around, not looking at the ball, his hands came out slightly and caught the ball. Now that one, I would say, had more debate in it than Hudson-Odoi's one, where, well, for example, Ryan Bertrand's hand is not above shoulder height, it's next to him. Hudson-Odoi is above shoulder height, and straight away that's one of the criteria. It's a handball. If his hand's above his shoulder, which it was, it's handball, because it's in a position that arguably it shouldn't be. So I think the contrast of the fact that Bertrand got that penalty given against him and Hudson-Odoi got away with that one, that's the biggest annoyance for me. And just coming off that spiral, IVAB have come out and said that they're going to be reviewing the handball league this month. So it'll be another change, and it'll be more for us to dissect, and even more decisions that they're going to probably get wrong. But there you are. It just shows how much of a grey rule handball actually is. It's one of those rules that, for whatever reason, they just can't get right. And again, it must be frustrating for both players and referees, because none of them will have a consistent law in their head. Particularly the old timers, the older generation of footballers will still have a certain rule in their head and they won't shift it. So yeah.
So a question I just want to ask, I'll mostly throw it back to yourself, Andrew, as a resident wanker. I mean, referee, sorry.
I'll take it.
You have to bleep that one out.
Yeah, you have to bleep that one out. Enjoy it then. In his post-match interview, Solskjaer he made a comment, I think it was something about, in the Chelsea matchday programme, there'd been a comment about the fact Man United had more penalties since the start of last season than any other team. Now, for you as a referee, and obviously Solskjaer was saying that was probably in the back of the ref's mind, because it kind of feeds into the whole thing that Shaw was allegedly has heard that the ref said, I can't give that because it would cause too much debate.
Yeah.
From your point as a referee, like, if there's a kind of idea, if you see what I mean, that's like propagated, like Neymar's a diver, Man United get a bunch of penalties, that kind of thing, like whether it's true or not, it's just this kind of idea that's like bounced around the football community. If that is a referee is in your head, would you be more or less inclined to like give a decision?
That's a very good question. I'm going to say no, but I'm also going to say yes. The example I'll use, so no, because, well, quite frankly, it shouldn't, right? You should take every game as it is. It's a clean slate, and you just referee what you see in front of you, right? So for one, I don't believe that Stuart hasn't given that penalty because of the article. Because A, I don't think he's bothered to pick up a Chelsea matchday programme, and B, it just doesn't seem very plausible for that to be a reason for him not to give a penalty. When I flip that, if I'm going into an amateur league game or any game and I know that there's a player on this team that has a reputation for bad-mouthing a referee or giving referees a certain amount of dissent, it's something that I will keep in my head because I know I can act on it quickly if it does happen, and that can benefit not only me but the player. So if I know this player is going to give me jip, I can say to him straight off in the first instance, look, just dinny, right? I can turn my wording away around to deal with him quicker, because in some instances it might just be a wee comment by me saying, right, no, just move on. But if I know he's got history of dissent, I can pull him in and say, right, that's it, done. First instance, done. Okay. So from that sense, from that point of view, if it's something that doesn't change the course of a game, so diving, etc., I'd be more inclined to keep that in my head. So players' behaviour, for example, dissent. No, I don't believe it should be something that is brought into a game, because it will just judge your cloud of judgment. It will judge your field of judgment. Sorry, and it'll make for a more difficult game.
It's worth pointing out that either last week or the week before on the podcast, you said that you would be less inclined to give Salah a penalty because of his diving history.
Less inclined?
Yeah, you said you'd be less inclined to give him a penalty because of his history of diving. If you deemed it to be minimal contact, you said it might swing your interpretation of it.
I don't recall saying it exactly, but if I know a player's going to be diving, I'm going to be watching the instant more closely, but it's not going to sway my judgment. You should always take a game, because 5 out of 10 times Salah won't have dived, and it is a genuine contact, and it is him genuinely going down. But if I go into my head straight away that I think he's dived, it's just going to remove me giving that decision correctly. So I don't say I would take that into the game. I don't say I would take any prejudgments into a game. But I also don't think a referee can necessarily escape these thoughts, because they are just going to occur.
It's unconscious bias. Like, obviously, no referee is going into the game thinking, if Man United player goes down, I'm not giving a penalty because Man United get far too many penalties. Like, that's absurd. And to be honest, I don't actually think it's directed at a team either. I think Ollie's clutching at straws there. But certainly for individuals that dive, 100%. I mean, 100%. A referee's unconscious bias is going to look at a Neymar or Salah differently than it would if it was a Jordan Henderson. Referees are human. If we're thinking it, they're thinking it.
Okay. No, I'll take that on board. But your answer for that question, Ryan, was yes and no. And I've given examples of when I might and when I wouldn't. So, but certainly in this case of Man United, I don't think it's applicable. I don't think you can apply that, because it's a very bold thing to put in a Chelsea matchday programme as well, if I'm honest. All that's doing is opening up a lot of... That's an opening a can of worms for any fan to then get involved. But media...
I'm sure it was intended as humour, but as you say, it's a questionable thing to put in there.
But yeah, if there's nothing else to discuss, that will wrap up this week's short, albeit detailed discussion on those two decisions.